Hey guys, so today I wanted to just talk about one of my favorite, most versatile lenses I've ever used, and you've probably never heard of this lens. It's from Canon. It has an amazing zoom range from 35 all the way to 350 millimeter. This is probably one of my favorite lenses to use at events and situations where I know that I am limited in my time, where maybe I don't have a second camera body and I need to just have one lens with me. This lens is actually something maybe you guys have never even heard of, and the reason being is because this lens was released 30 years ago. That's right, way back in 1993. What else happened in 1993 along with this lens? Well, in 93, this is the same year that the World Wide Web was actually released to the public, the same year that the Mosaic web browser was pushed out to the public so people could actually use the internet for the first time. And did you guys know that it actually takes more time to say www than it does to say World Wide Web? So yeah, 1993, man, that's how far back this lens goes. Some of my favorite hits from the 90s were released in 1993. Mr. Jones by Counting Crows, Creep by Radiohead, and Dream Lover by Await. So if you think back to 1993, photography was a lot different than it is today. You see, back then, photojournalists had a need for something this small and compact, yet something that could zoom from 35 all the way to 350. And as you can see, this is an old school push-pull lens that Canon no longer makes lenses like this. And even though it's a push-pull lens from 1993, it actually still has an ultrasonic motor in it, which means the autofocus is quiet, whisper quiet, which is really cool to think about, because even today I've actually used modern day lenses that were made within the last 5 years that are actually still very noisy with the autofocus. And so it's really cool to think about how Canon was innovating so long ago. 30 years ago, they were making ultrasonic motors that made lenses like this super quiet. So if you think about a photojournalist that's trying to capture a moment, and to have an autofocus motor going would have not been the greatest thing in the world. Another interesting fact about this lens is actually it has distortion very well controlled, which is pretty unheard of actually for a zoom range this long from 35 to 350. The distortion is actually very well controlled, and that's going to help with shooting anything with angles or anything with lines in it where you need to really control and make sure the rectilinear view of what you see is preserved and distortion free. Well, this lens is going to help you do that. And the resolution of this lens, considering how old it is actually quite good at all focal lengths, especially if you stop down to f8 if you're like in a bright sunny environment. My second photographer, I actually had her shooting with this lens at a 5K event. Every image that came back from this camera using this lens were very sharp and very contrasty, and this lens did the job very, very, very well for an event like that. So you can imagine a lot of events where you need to have quick coverage. So if you think about a 5K, maybe you're sitting at the starting line and you're zoomed at 35 so you can capture everything. And then as the runners take off, you can zoom in and close in on the action as it goes by. And then you're able to just capture things very quickly going from 35 to 350. It's pretty awesome actually to use this lens. And for video production, this doesn't have stabilization in it, so keep that in mind. It's actually quite a fun lens to use for video if you have good stabilization like on a tripod. Just keep that in mind as you're using this. You might get a little bit of camera shake because of just the way this push-pull mechanism works. In my experience just using this for some quick video B-roll, the resolution is quite amazing for 4K video. You're able to zoom all the way out and then quickly zoom in on some subjects that may have been in the frame that you just didn't even realize it as you zoom in. So this is an older Canon EF lens, so this is going to have the old EF mount on it. What I love about the Canon range is you're able to get maybe like this is a Canon R5, it's got a cage on it. I've got the EF to RF adapter on it, so I'm able to put this lens on this camera and use it just like any other lens. So if I turn it on right now, I'm gonna just focus right in on the EOS C right here. And let's see how that did. So that was just using the in-body image stabilization. The image looks quite good, to be honest with you. And you can just see how going from 35 all the way to 350, you're able to cover quite a bit with this awesome lens right here. My favorite part about this lens, honestly, is the price. If you think about having high quality L glass for a camera that'll still work for modern day mirrorless cameras, a lens that was made 30 years ago and it's still gonna work seamlessly is pretty awesome. And that's my favorite part, is actually you can find these on eBay for as little as $400, maybe even less. I think I paid $450 for this mint, literally mint unused condition. There's these resellers out of Japan that can sell these to you. And if you just get on eBay, just do a search for Canon 35 to 350. I'll leave some links down below in the description for you guys so you can check that out. If you can pick up one of these, I think for any kind of event photography that you do, for just some quick coverage stuff, it's gonna be quite a game changer for you, especially at the price. It's pretty awesome. Of course, there's gonna be other lenses that will serve you much better for different purposes. So this is definitely not a low light lens because it has a variable aperture from 3.5 to 5.6. So you're probably not going to be using this where the light is a lot lower and you need to still capture some action that way, because that means you're going to have to crank your ISO up on the camera, and that will introduce more noise into your images. Using a lens like this might be better for that. Using a lens like this might be better for that application, and this is the Canon RF 70 to 200 to 8. As you can see the size difference here. Not much of a difference here. Actually, the RF 70 to 200 is actually bigger and heavier, I feel like, than this lens. Or if you need even more light, you're gonna use something like this, which is the Sigma Art 105 1.4. I'll put a link up here to the Sigma 105 1.4 art lens that I reviewed. This is a great lens also, but it's a 1.4, which is great for low light, but it's a prime lens, which means you can't zoom with it. So there are limitations with, actually both of these lenses have their limitations. So like this 70 to 200, you can only go 70 to 200, whereas with this, you've got all the focal length of 35 to 350. So you can see how awesome this lens already is. And it comes with a really cool looking, this feels like an old school like photojournalist hood. I don't know, just the way it looks is really cool. But you can see how this complete package looks right here. So in terms of how this lens functions, you've got this smooth and tight setting for the zoom. So that'll lock it in, and when you push it over or roll it over to tight, it'll lock the lens so you can't move it. And then when you move it this way, it loosens it up so you can push and pull it. It's got a manual focus ring, and then instead of a traditional zoom ring that you turn, it's got just this spot here to push and pull the lens. So that's pretty cool. Another interesting thing is at every focal length, you'll see that the little numbers notched on the actual barrel of the lens, which is cool. At every focal length on this lens, the camera body, so in my case the Canon R5, which is a current day modern mirrorless camera, still can communicate with this 30-old Canon EF lens through the EF to RF adapter. So you're able to get all the EXIF data from every focal length, even in your images. So when you're looking at your images in Lightroom, you'll see that you are shooting at maybe 100 millimeter and f5.6 or whatever. Modern day lenses will give you that, but to know that all of your EXIF data is preserved even in this old school Canon lens is quite a feat. So yeah, anyway, I just can't say enough about this amazing Canon lens that I got for 450 bucks. Mint condition, straight from Japan. It got to me really fast. A lot of these eBay resellers in Japan have really great feedback. I feel like the Japanese really know how to take care of their camera gear because a lot of this stuff is made in Japan. I just feel like they know how to take care of their stuff. I'll leave some links down below for maybe some auctions that I've noticed on eBay. Maybe you just want to use this as like an all-in-one travel lens where you just want to pack one camera body with one lens. This could be a really cool option because you can just take this with you on your family trip, or if you're traveling somewhere overseas and you really have limited space, you could probably bring this and get a lot of amazing shots, honestly, with this. It really comes down to the limitations of your camera with the ISO performance, because as you do get closer to the end of this barrel, you're going to be at f5.6, so that's something to keep in mind. So anyway, I just wanted to share some quick information about this awesome lens. I really highly recommend checking out the Canon 35-350. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel today. If you have some time, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and also ring the bell to get notified when I drop new content. And I'll see all of you guys on my next video.